Okay, come on. All right, here we go. Welcome. What a very special event tonight. Two for the price of one. We have with us the rabbis, Mati and Levi Harlig, joining us live from Yerushalayim. No. Brooklyn, New York. No. Las Vegas, Nevada. So what in the world are two nice Hasidic boys, young men, doing in Sin City? Tell us the story. What does it mean to be a Chabad Chassid in a place known more for glitz and glamour and casinos than for Torah and mitzvahs?
Thank you for the introduction. First of all, we both spent time in the Masifta of Chicago, 3 years, one of the best.
Well, hold on. Are you or are you your brother?
Probably the best 3 years of my life. So
Are you?
I'm my brother and he's me.
Okay.
So my name is Mati. I'm Mati Harlig. This is my baby brother, Levi Harlig. We are 10 minutes apart. I'm 10 minutes older than Levi, so he owes me 10 minutes of respect. I try to stick it to him all the time. And as my brother just mentioned, we spent 3 years in high school in Masifta in Chicago. Our fond, amazing memories from Chicago. The weather is very different, a lot of very different things. But to connect being in Chicago, to answer your question, first of all, we don't call it Sin City anymore. We call it Mitzvah City.
Okay.
Chabad started here 30 years ago. Our parents moved here 30 years ago. And since then, Las Vegas took off in the right direction. We are taking the sin out of city and turning it into mitzvah.
So what does Las Vegas look like 30 years into this experiment? What is the Jewish community like in Las Vegas?
So there are.
Well, let's start with what it looks like when you got here.
Yeah. All right. So you say what
All right,
we got here. And I'll
You
say
do want
what
to
we
work
got.
this out and come back? I mean, we don't want to get into family arguments here.
Family policy, this is normal. This is the way we operate.
Okay.
So when, there were 2 synagogues, or maybe even 3 synagogues when my father and mother arrived here. There was no kosher food. There was no mikvah. There was nothing. Empty. My father was the first religious person to live in town. My brother began by 10 minutes. He was the first religious person to be born in Las Vegas.
You made it a chazaka.
Yeah.
Correct. And the landscape has changed dramatically to a point, and my brother will go into the details, but there was someone I was speaking to recently who moved here from Brooklyn, and I asked her, why'd you move to Las Vegas? She said she moved here for chinuch reasons. She wants to educate her children. Now, who could imagine someone moving from Brooklyn to Las Vegas for education, Jewish education? I must go to show that Las Vegas has changed. And with that, go ahead.
And yeah, so now there are actually, they say there are around 70,000 Jews in Las Vegas. Many of them, unfortunately, unaffiliated. Couple of years ago, they did some sort of census throughout the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, of how many Jews showed up throughout all the shuls throughout Las Vegas, whether it be Reform or Conservative, Orthodox, whatever it may be. And there was approximately 10,000 Jews who showed up to shul. So I mean, there's a lot more work to do. But we actually have 18 Chabad rabbis, rabbis and families here in town, 18 shluchim and shluchos. There are 9 different Chabad centers. We are sitting here in Chabad Central in the shul. Right behind this building is a beautiful 65,000 square foot campus, which has 350 children going to school every single day. Even with COVID, a lot of COVID precautions have been taken this year with temperature checks and masks and plastics being put up. But we have a wonderful school. There are, I believe, 10 restaurants in town.
10 kosher. There aren't barely 10 in Chicago.
Yeah. And I still remember the first time the pizza shop opened up here. It was like the biggest treat for my brother and I to go to a pizza shop.
Paradise, Gan Eden.
It was like 8 or 9 years old. We used to remember twice a year in New York, we would get an ice cream or pizza. But now there are a lot of restaurants in town. There are plenty of like 3 or 4 supermarkets in town. So the mikvahs all over Vegas. There's a few suburbs, so Summerlin and Henderson and Central. The Judaism aspect is bursting at the seams. But interesting, you asked the question. Growing up here as kids, my brother probably said the same thing. It was a regular city. I went to shul, I went home, I went to school.
Hometown.
I wasn't really going anywhere. When we went to Chicago, we were in high school. On Friday, we used to go out, put on film with some of the lay leaders and some of the community members. They'd be like, "You're from Las Vegas?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, he's from Brooklyn, he's from Chicago. I'm from, like, what's the big deal? And they're like, "Whoa, you're religious from Vegas." And then I was like, "Oh, maybe Vegas." So honestly, like we didn't really realize how different of a city Las Vegas was.
I always thought every 7-Eleven has slot machines inside. It's normal.
Right. So you guys have come back, you grow up in Las Vegas, you came to school, you go off, you do the yeshiva thing, and then you decide you're going to spend your life, you get married, you're coming home to Nevada to expand the work of your parents. What are your particular programming that you guys focus on?
All righty, thank you for asking that. So as we're twins, we're following the twin thing. We both got married to girls from Pittsburgh. My wife's from Pittsburgh, his wife's from Pittsburgh. We both have 3 kids. I had a girl, he had a girl. I had a boy, he had a boy. I had a girl, he had a girl. We lived across the street from each other. Our kids are going to each other's houses 24/7. So anyways, we came here.
I try to keep the when we try to keep a surprise what the baby's going to be, but my brother always has a baby before me, so he ruins the gender. He's a spoiler for me every single time. Says, Baruch Hashem, we have 3 kids, as he said, girl, boy, girl. Same thing with me, girl, boy, girl. Both our wives, we live down the block from each other, so the twins have continued. We took the same moving truck from Brooklyn back to Las Vegas.
So that being said, which is, by the way, it's a interesting feat. Not all twins get along this way, but either way, we both came to town. First, to open a Chabad center on the Strip, on Las Vegas Boulevard. There are a lot of Jewish people in town who come for business, for entertainment. They're not always looking for the most kosher ways of entertainment. That's why we're there. And I'll just say one quick story, which is a powerful story, which goes to show about Jewish pride. So one of the Shabbosim, now with COVID now, things have taken a change. God willing, we'll get more consistent, but we were walking through the Wynn Hotel to lead Shabbos, have a Shabbos services and a meal.
In the hotel, you're having
in the hotel. Now, the way Las Vegas operates is you have to walk through the casino for everything. For example, my older sister's wedding, first religious wedding in Las Vegas, we had 650 guests walking through the Venetian casino, from the Decan to the chuppah.
When they saw you coming in, they knew you're room 7.
Black hats and long black coats.
Black hats, black coats, and blackjack. Love it.
So we are walking to the casino with a Sefer Torah to get to the ballroom, and literally here, Shabbat Shalom, Rei Shabbat. There are people all over the place, Jews all over the place gambling.
You knew you'd have a minion. Whether they can come to daven is another question.
So as we're walking towards the end, we see a group of 5 to 10 young guys in Vegas for a bachelor party, and you can imagine a lot of l'chaims being said. They're nice.
Before or after the mimer?
Yeah. Before. So we say, guys, you got to come. We're going to have services. We're going to have a dinner. We're going to have more l'chaim. They're all more l'chaim. They're all Jewish. And we had an open bar. They had to go pay for their drinks.
Yeah, so they made it into a bar mitzvah. Okay.
Yeah. So after services and after Shabbos dinner, one of the guys tells me, he says, Rabbi, this is my first time in my life at services. So who would imagine, out of all places in the world, in the casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the Wynn Hotel, that's his first time he's going to go to shul and daven. That just goes to show you got to stand strong for what you believe in, and do what you got to do, and the Jews will come. So anyway,
what is the communities? I mean, what do we know? When I think of Las Vegas, you think everybody you meet is a gambler. Everybody's there on vacation. Everybody's there for the glitz and the glamour. I got to imagine you have a community. You got a guy, he's an accountant, and this guy's a lawyer, and this guy owns a grocery store. What has been the blend? You talk about bringing holiness into a place not naturally predisposed to it. You said your parents came 30 years ago, that was garnished. Now there's 18 Chabad houses. I mean, that doesn't happen just instantaneously. Give us a little something about what the early days were like.
So I was a kid then, but from what I do remember, and I think I can chime in, there was one conservative temple, the biggest one in town. The rabbi actually of the temple came to the Chabad's first Hanukkah party, welcoming Chabad here. He got up on a microphone, said, "Shehechi Yanu Bracha," how glad he was, and he was excited to welcome Chabad here. And a lot of the people who moved to Las Vegas came from New York, so had that traditional background, and they knew what Chabad was, and they were excited and happy. There's a former congresswoman, now she's the CEO of Toro, Nevada. Her name is Shelley Berkeley, big supporter of Israel. And when my father came into her office, she says, "Oh no, don't even think about Chabad in Las Vegas. Maybe in California, but don't even think about it here." And she always says how glad she was, how wrong she was then. So the community is very open for it, and people are very laid back in Las Vegas. It's the mentality. So I mean, Baruch Hashem, there was not a lot of pushback. People wanted to get involved, join for classes, come for Jewish education for their kids.
And I got 350 kids in the day school. I mean, where do you get teachers? Where do you get school supplies? I mean, you got to build this from scratch. There's no historical infrastructure. I mean, does Chabad do everything? I mean, what does it look like?
Go for it, Mati.
So first of all, actually, speaking about where to get teachers from, a few of the shluchim here, they're brought down just simply for the fact to go teach and the principal of the school and to teach the school because this is a full-time job.
The school is what, K through 8? I mean, what's the
preschool through 8th grade? We're actually we ran out of room. We have to expand now even more. Even with COVID, still kids are trying to come to school. So we have a full-time principal, 2 couples just devoted towards teaching, because obviously the kids are the future of the Jewish people, and you have to invest in the children now, so later on those dividends will pay out. I didn't have this. It's a beautiful school building. I would love to show you some pictures of it, but yeah, if education is presented the right way, it's a beautiful facility, and the kids understand, they see, and they appreciate it. Obviously it pays off when it comes to their learning. And they respect the building. They understand how much work and effort is put in by the teachers and stuff. My brother's trying to pull up a picture over here. But you asked about different jobs in Las Vegas. So going back to a different question, you said, what did me and my brother do here? So we moved back to town. My brother and I we sort of run our own sub-organizations under the general Chabad umbrella. My wife and I run something called YJP. They have one in Chicago as well. YJP stands for Young Jewish Professionals. Caters to the young adult Jewish crowd, whether it's social events or holiday events, a lot of learning, a lot of one-on-one meetups, and going for a coffee, going for a l'chaim, a business networking. And the magic we always find is our Shabbos dinners. Before COVID, we had every single week 15 to 20 guests at our house for Shabbos dinner. When you have an event, if you have 150 people at a Hanukkah party, it's might be hard to connect, but you had a Shabbos dinner sitting around the table, sharing experiences, talking about your path and what got you to our table. It's a beautiful, powerful thing. And as I was saying, they all have the regular jobs. They're not all, people think Vegas equals, you said Vegas equals gambling every night. There's a whole normal city besides a lot of people work in the hotels. People work in the nightlife industry. That happens all the time. But a lot of people have regular, normal jobs. And
so let me get a feel for, if you meet a person in Las Vegas, a young Jewish person in their 20s, are they from Las Vegas, or is everybody there a transplant from city?
So I met somebody today. He called the shul, he's early 30s, not from Las Vegas, actually moved from New York. So most people, Las Vegas people come in and out of Vegas all the time. So most people are not from Las Vegas. A
lot of people will call, once they come here, they stay here.
Yeah, that's true. And if they go to school, they go to UNLV or to college here, a lot of times they'll stay on.
So is UNLV right there, like in the city of Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Is there Chabad on the campus at UNLV?
Rabbi Tzvi Brunstein is Chabad on campus there.
Everybody's majoring in poker
hotels,
or something? Hotel management?
In hotels, yeah. Hotel management, I think.
Food and beverage, hospitality.
So let's talk about that. So maybe Las Vegas, obviously the backbone is all of this entertainment. Boom, COVID comes, the world stops. What was it like in the general community, and how did Chabad respond to the distinctive circumstance there in Las Vegas, where there's such a central focus on the hospitality industry, which of course has been just, bombarded by COVID all over the world? What happened there?
Yeah, so as far as that Las Vegas Boulevard and the conventions completely stopped. So there was the influx of those visitors have stopped.
We used to have every morning in shul here, 10, 15 guests. Nobody consistently for a year.
Still, it's garnished, shut down.
Very little now. They're starting to open up a new, I think one convention starting in April. They're going to start slowly. That being said, because Las Vegas became so normal now to come, so a lot of religious people come as well for yeshiva weekend, for a week vacation. Las Vegas is very cheap airfare because the hotels and the casinos make sure to keep it that way. Cheap to rent the car, cheap to get a hotel room because they want you to gamble.
Come to Chabad.
Correct. So you come to Vegas, come to Chabad. So the religious people are still coming and visiting. Apparently in the East Coast, COVID isn't, maybe everyone got COVID, but I don't know. The guidelines in Las Vegas are a lot stricter than they are on the East Coast. They come and they adapt to what they have to do. But in generally speaking, Chabad's approach has been like everyone else around the country: drive-by events, Zoom, virtual.
As a young Jew, the YJP crowd, I think, has been zoomed out for a little bit. So we've been doing outdoor events, a lot of things individually packaged. God willing, for Purim. We're doing
not a lot of outdoor stuff going on when it's 5 degrees in Chicago.
right, exactly. So
it was 70 degrees outside today.
It wasn't 70 degrees inside today. So Rabbi Mati is YJP, Young Jewish Professionals. Rabbi Levi Harlig, what is your focus?
So I guess, but now the way things are turning are two things. Number one is Friendship Circle of Las Vegas, which you have one in Chicago. Rabbi Zelig Moskowitz, I believe.
That's correct.
For children, young adults with special needs. We paired them with typical teens. A lot of families who get involved in Friendship Circle are the families who won't typically walk into a Chabad center, but I'll get to know them through the Friendship Circle, and then we bring them closer to the religion as well, which we get double points. There's also, it's interesting, it ended up turning out this way. Las Vegas is known for addiction. So there's a couple of recovery treatment centers that open up in Las Vegas for mainly focused on adolescents, 13 to 18. It's mental health, it's substance abuse, whatever the case is. And the facilities are completely kosher. All the food is kosher. You go to other facilities, but if someone wants to keep kosher, they'll give you a little package meal, frozen. It's not very appetizing. They want to eat the fresh, non-kosher food. So this way, all the food is kosher. And they have myself on staff, my wife. He visits the children, the kids who come. They're from out of the country. Some of them, talk to them, support them, and try and provide a positive spiritual experience while they're going through recovery, which is so integral and critical to their treatment.
So, of course, the question on everyone's mind is, we're half joking about, the gambling and casinos. Has Chabad in any way sort of blended with that, or is that just like treif?
If you go to the Aron Kodesh, there's a big slot machine. You gotta do that. No, actually, my father was very when he moved to Las Vegas, which is another story. Maybe I could say how Chabad came here in the first place.
Please, we'd love to hear it.
When he came here,
which year is that he came in?
1990. I'll say the story in a second. But when he came here, he had a few main concerns. His number one concern was education for his children. He wanted his children to grow up in Las Vegas, to be religious and committed to the religion. But number two was he didn't want to associate Chabad and Las Vegas. So the Chabad is called Chabad of Southern Nevada. And we were not out on the strip. My first time I went on the strip at night was when we were 18 years old. We came back with some friends on Hanukkah to give menorahs out. That was the first time walking on the strip at night. So it was
I've never been. I mean, when people talk about the strip, give us just a little landscape of what it looks like. You just have your regular homes, suburbs, and then right in the smack in the middle, you got like
is
Las Vegas Boulevard.
Las Vegas Boulevard is all the hotels. They say about 200,000 hotel rooms or something like that.
Like 250,000 hotel rooms.
A crazy amount of hotels. And it's 24/7 people there walking.
You can drive down middle. Now again with COVID, you drive in the middle of the night. Sometimes Hanukkah, you do have time 2, 3 in the morning. There are always people there, and if anything, that's when have their most energy because they're after a few l'chaim.
And what's their receptivity to guys in white shirts and yarmulkes?
On Hanukkah, for example, we go dressed as dreidels. And now, when I was a kid, I get it. But when these students who come out, they say, Rabbi, how are we going to go out? I said, no. You fit right into the strip. You go with your dreidel costumes. You start dancing. You fit right in, which we've done. But going back to how Chabad came here, so it's interesting. I think Las Vegas was the only city, maybe one of the only ones, for the longest period of time, big cities. The Rebbe did not want to send shluchim. And the way it would work is Merkis, which is the operating arm branch that would send shluchim out, responsible, would approach the Rebbe and say, we've analyzed a certain city. We think it's time for a shliach to be sent there. And they came to the Rebbe multiple times, and the Rebbe answered, absolutely not. What kind of crazy question did you give me until every other city has a Chabad?
Does everyone respond? Does every other city have a Chabad rabbi that you're looking specifically to send to Las Vegas?
Question mark, exclamation point.
What year was that?
That was in the late 70s, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So anyways, the way the story went is 2 yeshiva students came here in the summer of 1990. And if you know the way Chabad works, they have a program called Merkis Shlichus, which means students will go out to cities that don't have a permanent Chabad presence and engage the Jewish community, teach them about Torah and mitzvahs. So they came here. They didn't call themselves officially Chabad because that was illegal. So they came to Vegas illegally. They called themselves Project Torah. They went around for 3 or 4 weeks with a lot of success. There were a lot of Jewish people here. And the community that they met here said, rabbis or students, do you mind coming back for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the high holidays, and running services while you're here? And they, 2 yeshiva students, they said, of course, Vegas, Rosh Hashanah, we're game for that. So the newspaper here, the local paper, printed an ad, free advertisement. They said, they don't know the difference. Yes, Chabad, not Chabad. They wrote, Chabad will be hosting high holiday services.
Uh-oh.
And somehow that ad got back into Brooklyn, to Merkis, and they said to Rebbe, look, they're advertising already that Chabad's going to be there. What should we do? So the Rebbe said he agrees to send shluchim. However, they must go out under the responsibility, and Rabbi Kunin, who's the head shliach of Chabad of California, must choose and decide in what manner and what style and what format. This was on a Friday. Rosh Hashanah was 4 days later. It was on Wednesday. So my father tells me he's in 770, he's in Brooklyn, and actually 2 weeks prior, he was in Copenhagen, Denmark, scouting out. We were going to grow up in...
We were speaking Danish.
We would have been speaking Danish. So he was in Denmark, opening Chabad there. Rabbi Kunin comes to him Friday night or Saturday morning, Shabbos Avarchim. He says, Rabbi Harlig, the Rebbe hit me with a bombshell. He wants to send shluchim to Las Vegas. And if it's under my responsibility, I'm not letting 2 yeshiva students go. Do you want to go? So my father said, yes, I'll go. And he came home to my mother, and she said, we got a slight change of plans. We're not going to Brooklyn for Rosh Hashanah. We're going to Las Vegas. And sure enough, he came, and he says he remembers clearly walking through the Aladdin Casino, which no longer exists, with his talis and his...
Look at that. Chabad is there, and the Aladdin Casino was gone. What a message that is.
Take note. And he says walking to the casino with his kittel and his talis, like that was just the contrast that was going on. Anyways, he came there, and then he moved there full time in the Hanukkah, December of 1990.
This is a quick joke. People always come and they'll walk into the shul and say, Rabbi, we promised you 10% of what we win tonight. Over the next few days, we're going to give back 10% to charity. So my father has a new thing. He says, I don't want 10% of what you win. We want 10% of what you lose to come back. That's how you make a lot more donations.
Okay, so, wow. It's just going to get my head around it. You got 18 centers. You said at least
18 couples, 9 centers.
18 couples, 9 centers. At least one mikveh, I heard you say. More
3.
than one? 3 mikvahs. Wow, unbelievable. How far spread out? Give me the geography. You're in Las Vegas. How far away? Chicago, West Rogers Park, Skokie, Northbrook, Island Park. What's it like? Give us something that we can relate to. How far away is like the main Jewish? Is there a main Jewish neighborhood? A sort of what we would call a religious neighborhood? Is there a suburb? Like, is it 5 miles? Is it 30 miles? What about northern Nevada? You're southern Nevada. Like, give us just some geography here of where the Chabads are spread across. What's it called? The Silver State?
Silver State, yeah. So first of all, northern Nevada, they have their own Chabad rabbi.
Is it Nevada or Nevada?
Tomato.
Yeah.
You tell me. How far away is
Nevada?
That?
The people in Nevada take it very personal if you say it wrong. I believe when I think it was President Bush, he came and he was speaking. He said, "Welcome to Nevada," and everyone gave him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we became Illinois at the Kinnis. It was always Illinois.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so how far is northern Nevada from southern Nevada?
It's a good 8 hour drive, and
it's far.
Yeah, no one really. People will go there sometimes, but it's basically separate. Also, don't forget, Las Vegas is central for people who want to go to a lot of the parks, Grand Canyon, Bryce, and Zion. Las Vegas becomes the hub. You come stay here for 2 days, check Las Vegas out a little bit, drive to the parks, you come back and leave from Las Vegas.
California as well.
California also, to LA, it's a 4 hour drive on one highway. It's very easy to get there.
So where you are, that's just called Las Vegas, or is it like a neighborhood? Just give us.
Yeah, so we are in this, where we're sitting right now in central Las Vegas. We're like 8 minutes west to the Strip. So we are the closest shul Chabad to the Strip for now, till we get our Chabad center up and running over there. And then there are, I would say, 2 main suburbs. It's called Summerlin and Henderson. And they have their own communities there. So if you want to ask about communities, there's also a Chabad in Red Rock, there's a Chabad in the Southwest, there's a Chabad in the East. But the main jet, there's Central Vegas, and then there's the 2 suburbs of Henderson and Summerlin that have the bulk of the Jewish communities. There's a very large supermarket in kosher supermarket in Summerlin.
Kosher exclusive, or also
no, but there's this whole department called the kosher experience.
Like Jewel Osco. It's a big section. No Tangy Chow though.
No Tangy Chow here either.
I heard it closed. Yeah, I heard it closed. Yeah. And then the restaurants are scattered throughout. Most of the restaurants would like to be somewhat closer to the Strip to catch that business. But first of all, there's no traffic at all in Vegas, which is nice. And second of all, the most you're going to drive probably if you want to go to the edge of a suburb would maybe be 20 minutes from Central here. So nothing. That's why the school is also here, because if you go to the 2 different parts of town, the coming here is not driving all the way through from suburb to suburb. And no traffic, so that's good. You don't even have to take highways technically to get to Summerlin.
Beautiful.
But
So give us a wrap up. Give us a story, something that we can walk away with. Give us a story about what it's like Chabad in Nevada. Give us one good one. You know, conference amongst yourselves. Do that twin thing.
no, I was just because we have I could say a YJP story, and then maybe
Sure.
I'll do a quick YJP story.
We're not picky. We love to hear whatever you can.
So this just shows this story showed the ripple effect and how every single mitzvah, how important every single mitzvah is that led to where we're holding. Actually, the story is still going on right now. So as I said, my wife and I started Young Jewish Professionals like 4 years ago when he moved back to town, and this must have been probably 2 years ago or so. I was actually on the East Coast I was in New York heading to Pittsburgh. My wife has her family's from Pittsburgh. And there was a rabbi from Florida called a rabbi in New York who then called me saying, I need you to go visit somebody, very important, unfortunately got in a bad accident. He got burnt. He's in the burn unit at UMC Hospital, UMC Trauma. Please go visit him. So I said I would love to. Unfortunately, I'm in Pittsburgh. So I called my father. I said he can hopefully go. And I gave my father the information. My father went to visit this person, and I sort of forgot about the story. I get back to Las Vegas, and like 2 weeks later, my father calls me and says, do you remember you went to go visit that individual? You told me to go visit that individual at the hospital. His name is, just say Josh, and he's here at the shul. He came out. Thank God he came out of the hospital. He's doing a little bit better. He came to say thank you. My father at the hospital obviously put on tefillin with him, although he was severely burnt, but he was able to put on over the bandages. So anyways, he comes out, and I see his name is Josh, and he looks like a younger guy. So I start telling him right away about Young Jewish Professionals. And he told me, honestly, till now, he grew up, he knew he was Jewish, but he had nothing to do with Judaism. It's one thing about Las Vegas. A lot of people, when they move here, whatever Judaism they had, whether it was in college or even growing up elementary school, a lot of it sort of unfortunately goes down the drain. They don't really practice anything. So he told me he doesn't really know anything about Judaism. So we started to talk. I brought him to my office. We were talking about it. And I said, you know what? Why don't you come for a Shabbat dinner? I said I was a little bit hesitant, maybe not. But I convinced him to come. I said, all it is some good food and drinks and some good company. So he said, all right, I'll come. And he comes. He really, really enjoyed himself. I saw it like his neshama, his soul was crying out, bursting with tears of joy. And so then I started speaking, maybe start coming once a week to my office, and we'll do tefillin and you go to work. And she said, oh, that's awesome. Then I went to twice a week. Until I went to every single day, until he started coming every single week for Shabbos. And I would tell him to invite friends and to show how no one knew he was Jewish. Like his friends would be like, Jock, we didn't know you were Jewish. It's like, yeah, of course. So he started coming. So tefillin every day. And to be honest, sometimes, we have to have Shabbos dinner every single week. Sometimes my wife would like a break, but she knows it's a huge mitzvah of achnosas orchim, inviting in guests, making a Shabbos dinner. So every single week, without fail, my wife puts out a beautiful, I'm sure like all Chabad Rabbis, a beautiful dinner. And he would come every single week, and he got so comfortable, he decided he's going to sit directly across from me. I'm at one side of the table, the other head of the table, that's his place. Although he could have come sit in the front, he decided for whatever reason, that's going to be his place every single week. And then fast forward like a year later, single guy, looking to mingle in Las Vegas. You got to make sure you find him a nice Jewish girl. So again, coming every single week, putting on tefillin every single day, all because one rabbi called another rabbi, he called me, who called my father to visit and put on tefillin. Then he came to say thank you. Then I decided to invite him every single week for Shabbos. We get a message on Instagram. Now, before I moved back to Las Vegas, I didn't know what Facebook was. I didn't know what Instagram. I didn't understand anything. So we get a DM, a direct message on Instagram. So there's somebody who says, hey, I'm coming to town for the weekend. Can you please come for a Shabbos dinner? I wasn't sure if this person would fall in the YJP category or not. And to be honest, I don't know if I want to give him my information on social. So I start to ask little questions like, you know what? She says a girl wants to have a Shabbos dinner, visiting from out of town. Why not? So I said, all right, come. Here's the address. And then the meal starts at 7:00, and it's probably 7:30, and I turn to my wife. I say, "There's one seat that's empty, and every single week, exactly when people are coming. Who didn't come?" And we're trying to think back and forth. And I'm like, "Oh, that's right. Somebody messaged us on Instagram. Probably was just a fraudster." And who? And then 5 minutes later, we hear a knock at the door. And this girl walks in. She apologizes for coming late. She says, I'm really, really sorry. But of course, what seat is available? The last seat in the table, right next to the head of the table at the end, right next to Josh. And the meal and they started talking and talking and talking and talking. Josh sometimes a little bit quieter, but he wasn't quiet that night.
He was zoned in.
He was zoned in. And sure enough, on Sunday, I spoke to Josh and he said, we actually just went out on a date. And fast forward a few months later, this girl moved to town. And now God willing, we're having a wedding in a few months. And now instead of him coming, they come both. They just came this past week.
Beautiful.
So we see in Las Vegas at a Shabbos dinner table, all starting from, unfortunately, had an accident, but somebody caring to, hey, I want a rabbi to go visit him. And all of a sudden the Chabad rabbi connection starts working, calls someone to call someone to call somebody else, and does the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim. That's mitzvah number 1, visiting the sick. The mitzvah of Tefillin, obviously, woke up his neshama, is so mitzvah number 2. Then he came here. We started speaking the mitzvah of Limud Torah, learning Torah, mitzvah number 3. And the mitzvah of Hachnasas Orchim, inviting in guests. Mitzvah number 4, my wife invites guests every single week. To mitzvah number 5, God willing, we're having a Jewish wedding coming very soon. So we got to do our part of doing mitzvahs, being nice, being out there for everybody, inviting people in. And you don't know the impact you're going to create from it. That's a little YJP story, which is in the middle of happening. Maybe we'll invite you all to the wedding when it happens.
Okay, guys, I have to make a little bit of a confession. You see, you think we had you on here because we wanted to talk about Las Vegas, but really, as an alum, we have a little, a follow-up here with a certain one of your teachers who you see I've pinned, who wants to know what your handshaking skills have developed.
Jay, we're talking about Jay Pine and the roofing company.
There you see him on in
It's got to be hard and
look at
firm,
that.
and look in the eyes.
There you go.
Right?
See, they passed the test.
There he is. I see
There
him.
he is. He's there.
Yeah, you got to look him in the eyes, firm.
Firm handshake from your.
Jay, do you remember the Harlig twins in yeshiva there?
Who could forget you? You're unforgettable.
So Jay, let me practice into the camera. Give me your hand right there. There you go.
Beautiful.
Not firm enough.
There you go. So this was a little pop quiz to make sure that you had on your skills.
I just want to say what the slogan here, what happens in Vegas happens at Chabad. That's what the slogan really is over here. Stays at Chabad.
So guys, I want to thank you, Yasher Koach, for all that you've done and for sharing it with us. This is beautiful. It's been so interesting and so enjoyable to learn about what Chabad is doing there. Give us a lead out with a friendship circle story to take us with.
I mean, it's going to take 2-3 minutes to say a story. It's not a friendship circle story. It's a Chabad of Vegas style story.
We love it.
It happens here continuously. So people come throughout Las Vegas to visit, as I said, they're usually the wrong reasons. And we have a lot of interesting characters. I can go on for hours of the characters that we've met and the weird adventures, I should say, we've gone on. So one particular time we're in the shul, and I was a kid in the old Chabad center. And an older gentleman comes to the back of the shul for our regular morning services, Shachris. After shul, my dad approaches him. What's your name? What's going on? He said, my name is Aryeh, but Rabbi, leave me alone. I'd rather not speak. I'm not interested in conversing. I'm doing my thing. Okay, fine. Some people wake up on the wrong side. All right. Next day, he comes back again. So my dad tries to approach again. Again, same thing. He said, I'm not interested. I don't want to talk. Bitter situation. I don't want to deal with you. He came for a couple of days, and then he left. All right. Like 2-3 months later, comes back to shul again. My dad remembers him because he's like, hey, this guy tries to approach him again. Same thing. He says, Rabbi, it's still Aryeh, but I'd rather not speak. And it was odd. And for consistently, like every month or two, he'd come for a couple of days and leave, come and leave. He said he's from the East Coast, but that was it. All right. We always knew as a kid, Aryeh was there. Oh, Aryeh, the guest is back. He's in the back there. Anyways, the good old days when you had the beepers, the pagers. You guys remember those? They're ancient. So my dad, also chaplain at the Clark County Detention Center, he gets a page on his beep or a beep on his pager that it's like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They ask him to come to the jail. He's there, and it's a Jewish couple from New York who got in some sort of tax or money fraud situation, and they're being detained. They're being arrested and put into prison and they have 2 daughters, and the daughters will be sent to some sort of foster home for the time being. But they're Jewish, and can my father find someone to host them for the time? It could be for a day, could be for a week, could be for a month, could be for longer than that. So being a Chabad shliach, he said absolutely. And we have a house for them, my house. I'll take them for the time being. brings them home. I remember now I wake up as a kid in the morning, we go to the playroom to play. My mother says, shh, we have 2 new guests in our house who will be there. And we go in, we probably woke them up. The 2 girls, they were, I think they're like 10 to 13, like younger girls. And I asked Mommy, why are they here? They said her parents are on vacation and they wanted to spend some time there. So I was always like, why do they cry though? If the parents are on vacation, why are they crying? She said they're homesick. Anyway, so they became part of our family. Play with us at night, suppers with the family, whatever it was. I think they were there for about 2 weeks until my father got notification to come back to the prison. They're being released. Did he pay the bail?
Yeah.
Chabad paid whatever, helped cover the bail, whatever it was. They're being released. They had to stay in town though for the time being to sort out whatever needed to be sorted out. But it was an emotional reunion. I remember that. The daughters met with their parents again. And they were staying at a hotel nearby the Chabad here, and they'd come occasionally, to visit. So after they got out, my father spoke to them, and they said their story. And she said, actually, they have a connection to Las Vegas. What's their connection? She says, my father and I had a fallout when I was a teen. I was a rebellious teen, and I ran out of the house. To the extent, he didn't talk to me anymore. He excommunicated me from his family. She says, my father's name is Aryeh. I've never met him since I was a teen. I haven't seen him again. He's never met my husband. He's never met my children. He's never met his grandchildren. No connection. And I hear, she says, from however she found out, he comes to Las Vegas occasionally. So, maybe I'll have the fortune and luck of finding him here. Las Vegas has to be a lucky city. So I follow his wheels are turning. He knows Aryeh, East Coast, bitter situation. So he said, all right, he didn't tell her anything. You stay here. Sure enough, the next time Aryeh does come in a matter of a week or two, he approaches him and says, Aryeh, I'm going to ask you one favor. You come all this time. I want to speak to you, just one conversation. So he says, Rabbi, okay. So after davening, my father says, can I ask you something personal? He says, yeah. He says, do you have a daughter who perhaps you were, an estranged daughter? And he says, yes. So my father doesn't say, he says, I want you to come to my office tonight to discuss it. I think it's important. So he says, I'll come. A broken person. Anyways, he comes. My father invites doesn't tell the daughter, come to the office with your kids as well. And for the first time in his life and their life, grandfather Aryeh was reunited with his daughter and his grandchildren in a Chabad house here in Las Vegas, Nevada. So
I love it.
You got to do what you got to do to help out your fellow in distress, and good things happen.
I had to go all the way to Las Vegas to find their Yiddishkeit. Unbelievable. You guys are great. This was wonderful.
All our energy comes from Chicago. The learning for
Rabbi
those 2 years. That's it. Rabbi Epstein's got the energy for years. We want to be somewhat of Rabbi Epstein.
We used to go put him to your shul.
Yeah,
it's coming up soon.
Another time. Guys, I loved it. It's great. Thank you. 1,000 thank yous. Really appreciate it. Good night, everybody. Tomorrow night, Parsha at 9 o'clock. Many, many thanks to Rabbis Levi and Mati Harlig. Really, really appreciate it. You guys were great. Afreilchem Purim. Thank you for sharing the time with us. Loved it. There you go. Good. Firm handshake.
Thank you for having us.
Good hand to the other guy's heart. Love you.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Good night. Good night.
All the best.